All right, I think we're live. Can everybody hear us? Give us a shout out if you can hear us.
Hello, hello.
Smash the like button if you can hear us. Come on. Let us not waste time. Let us smash that like button to bring more people in. How's everybody doing? Give us a shout out so that we know whoever is around, so that we can see some familiar names.
Yeah, last time my audio wasn't up to scratch. It is. You guys let me know if everything's good now.
All right, Adam said it's good. Everybody has smashed the like button. That's good. All right, guys.
Nice, yeah.
Happy to be here again. We're, last session we had quite a few questions, some big questions also for this Q&A. So that was pretty cool. So we have an announcement to make today, but I think we're going to do it later on when there's more people in. I think we could start right off with the questions, right, Gennaro? What do you think?
Yeah, let's get it on. I mean, as people joining up, 5 people watching. That's it.
Cool.
Let's get it on.
So I think it's well for us to start with Adam's question, that question about tilling the soil he had made before the last session that we said we'd address it today. So I think it's a good topic to start. After all, today the idea was to do about the module of the practical activity where we show soil preparation. So it's a good idea to talk a bit about soil preparation and tilling and what happens. There's lots of talk about no tilling, about not tilling the soil, but it's good to understand that sometimes it is important to till the soil. And so we could talk a bit about when to till, when not to till. So yeah, let's get right to it. I wanted to show a picture. I'm gonna look for this picture while we talk. But I think we can start by saying this. There are beings that prepare the soil a lot better than our hoes or our tractors. Okay, this is important to understand. Bacteria, worms, beetles, and other creatures that dig the soil, they create a bile structure in the soil. And I was looking for the picture to show this perfect soil structure. They're going to create that perfect soil structure that's perfect for roots to develop on. Okay, these animals and bacteria, for example, they will release this substance which acts as a sort of glue that will create the crumbles of the soil. Okay, and then the crumbles of the soil, they're a very stable structure which holds water, holds nutrients, allows roots to expand freely into the soil. And that's actually the ideal soil. Okay, it's when it's got that crumble-like structure, so common in forest soils. If you go to a forest, you dig up a bit, you're going to see that the soil is very loose, black, and it's got these crumble-like structures. You can find worm castings on top of the soil usually. And this is the ideal scenario. But that's not usually what we encounter when we're starting work in a land. What we usually encounter is a compacted, destroyed soil. Okay. So when we encounter this compacted, destroyed soil, plants cannot grow in it properly because the roots cannot expand properly. The soil does not hold water. The water just drains away. So in these cases, when you're starting out in degraded land, tilling the soil can be a major help, okay, because it's going to loosen up the soil particles. Think of tilling not as in something to improve your soil, but rather to undo. That's how I like to see it. I am undoing damage that was done throughout many years. I'm uncompacting the soil. So when you have very degraded soil, I'm going to undo that by putting a tractor on to release those soil particles and loosen up the soil a bit so that roots can grow, and so that I can incorporate my fertilizers, lime, rock dust, manure, or whatever I'm adding to the soil. I'm going to incorporate it when tilling. Once you do till, it's important to understand this. After tilling, the soil is very sensitive. Okay, it's highly sensitive. So once you till the soil, if you leave it bare and it rains, you can see that it creates this crust, right? This like a how do you call it? Like the smooth surface on top, because the clay particles will kind of clog up together, and it will create this sheet of soil that blocks water penetration. So it's just soil that was tilled is very, very sensitive to compacting, and if you're not careful, it could compact even more than it was beforehand. So till will help to undo some damage, but when you do it, you need to cover it up as soon as quick as possible, right? So, what do you say, Janaro?
Yeah, for sure. And we've heard down with when trees are planted straight away after, we're giving condition for those initial roots to thrive, go and do like deeper work, things that. So really, we're counting on roots to do that deeper damage. So roots as well, like we mentioned biodiversity in the soil, the bacteria, the fungi, and all the life in the soil, how that gives that good structure. The most amazing things to form quality soil, really to create that structure. We've broken up a bit of the life, so we've lost maybe 30% of the life in the initial. Which is the big no-no. After we're tilling it, we're not going to be treating it with, say pesticides and keeping.
I can hear you.
Sorry about that, Gareth. So basically, this is what I have to add, about the roots and how important the roots are to go deeper and deeper.
Okay, so yeah, actually, apparently, can you guys hear me? Just to know.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not muted or anything.
Funny, because I can hear you.
So I'm gonna set up. Yeah, you can hear me pretty well. This is how it was. I'm gonna set up another microphone. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
1 second there.
Guys, let me know if you can hear me, just so that I. Okay, they say it's better now. Apparently. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, Gennaro is looking for a new microphone. I am looking for a picture. I wanted to show you the picture of the perfect soil, but couldn't find it somehow. But anyway, guys, that's the idea. You know, it's important to understand that real good soil structure is maintained by life, okay, by plants' roots, by bacteria, by worms, by fungi, by beetles, and all sorts of small animals that live in the soil. So they will maintain that structure. Okay, they will create a strong, resistant structure in the soil that will even be resilient to constant machinery passing on the field. Still, we want to avoid excessive machinery, so it's always good to first look for the lighter tractors that you can. You know, the smaller, the better, as long as it's able to do all the work that needs to be done. So, you know, always look for the lighter machinery. And then reduce as much as you can past the unnecessary passages. You know, use the tractor on the field as little as you can to avoid constant compacting. It's important to remember that it will always compact a little bit, but then life in the soil will, take it back will redo the damage, right? So it needs time. You can't be, going with the tractor every day on the same place. It's the same thing with cows, Do cows compact the soil? Yes, they do. Any animal compacts the soil if they stay in the same place every day. So if they are on the same paddock every day, day after day, if they're on the same place, they will destroy the soil. If they're moving around, and then when you're doing proper multi-paddock grazing, following the principles of Alan Savory, of Voisin, and all of the people who are working with, of Joel Salatin, all of these people who are working with multi-paddock grazing, then the animal only uses a paddock like 6 or 7 times a year, like 6 or 7 days a year, and not in sequence. The animals are going to be in this paddock once a day, once again after like a month, once again after another month, once again after 3 months. So they're not constantly there. So the paddock has time to undo whatever damage, whatever light damage was caused by the hoofs of the animal. So it's the same thing with the tractor. If you're passing on the same place every day, once to go and then once to come back, it will compact a lot. But if it's, if you're using once every month or every 2 months, so, the less you use it, the better. The less times you have to pass through the field, the better. And then it's all a matter of logistics, trying to organize yourselves better.
Yo. Well, if my image was freezing up as well, Felipe, it's probably not the microphone. It really is a case of the internet connection out here. I've put everything on minimum, and let's see how it goes. If you guys, if persists, you guys let me know.
Yeah,
right?
it seems like it's still freezing a bit, but
well,
yeah,
Adam asked here. Adam asked about the weight on the tractor. I do have a number where I consider 800 kilos. This is something Ernest once told me. You know, up to 800 kilos, that's one category, and above 800 kilos is another category. You know, when you're talking about weight in a
Yeah,
tractor.
it will of course depend not only on the weight, but on the what kind of wheeling it uses. So if you're using, how do you call those tractors? Steer. What's the name in English? Forgot. Because it could have a wheel. It could have one of those. How do you call those, man? Do you know the name? But those,
those
yeah,
those
they
tank
have that.
those tank kind of
Yeah, that's like a tank.
yeah, everyone, I'm about to go get my son's little tractor here
Yeah, do
and
it.
show
Get it.
you guys. But I think everyone
Yeah, well, that
understands.
tractor has got this thing
That's
around the
funny.
wheels, so that as it had, the wheels are comprised inside this, uh, whatever that's called. Anyway, that one compacts less because the weight is better distributed. So, because what matters is the pressure that it transmits, right? You can get, at least here in Brazil, small tractors like these of 800 kilos. They will be pretty small. They will have low power, like their engine are going to be, between 18 and 25 horsepower. Yeah, that's it. That's the tractor we're talking about. So you can see that the weight is distributed all on the not only on the wheels, right? It's distributed on this, whatever that's called. Um,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
anyway, so you can get 18. There is a company here called Agrale, which produces like 18 horsepower tractors, like 20, 25, and then you can get tractors between 800 and 1,200 kilos. So that's an idea. And then these are the smallest ones we get around here, but and then you've got the micro tractors, which are even smaller. But then for some things, these tractors won't suffice, depending on the work you have to do. So the idea is simply go as small as you can. Okay. If you need a tractor that's able to run one of those tree shredder that we showed, remember Adam? We showed you during our talk. So this machine that can go, it fell, it brings the tree down and already shreds it. Those implements need at least 75 horsepower, so you can't run it with a small tractor. So that's it. Just go as small as you can.
Yeah, often depending on your operation, if you can get something smaller and something, a little bit lighter for the day-to-day use, that'll be great. And then, like if you need something punctual, if you need something on an occasional, like on a bigger tractor, maybe you can rent that,
Exactly.
that can come in and do it, that can do a job, but if it's something on a day-to-day, really, really do try, design your
Yeah,
operation as well lighter and you know,
because probably the tractor you're going to need to prepare to do the initial soil preparation, you don't need such a powerful tractor for like cutting the grass and just harvesting and doing that sort of stuff. You can have a lighter tractor for that. That's I couldn't find the picture, but I'm pretty sure I posted that picture in our Instagram at some point. So I'm looking for it here now. Found it. Let me see how to share the screen. Display capture. Whoa. Okay, there you go. Okay, can you guys see it? So this is the perfect soil. Okay, what you can see is that you can see the crumbles, right? It's these aggregates. That's the technical term. So you've got these aggregates. These are soil particles that are joined together by life. Okay, this is made by worms, beetles, other animals, bacteria, and it creates the perfect structure. This is a resistant structure. It's not easily destroyed. Water can permeate very easily. It holds a lot more water than compacted soil or even loosened soil, but that doesn't have this structure. This is the perfect soil. Okay, I think I have another picture here. Okay, so this is the picture of the soil was cut. So you can see that the surface soil is, really black. It's very crumbly, and you can see that it loses the crumbliness, if that is even a word, as it goes down, because most of the life is on the top soil. There's no doubt about that. So this is what you want. Once you have the soil, if you use a rotary hoe or a tiller or a cultivator or a harrow or even a plow, you will destroy this crumble-like structure. That's the problem of having machinery in very good soils. You completely destroy this structure that takes years to build. So that's the big problem of constant plowing. Okay.
It is a case once you have your system set up, to really be disciplined with the corridors which you're walking in, disciplined, if you have the right, the roads for your tractors and your cars to walk in, because we really don't want to be stepping in vegetable beds and tree beds, even if those vegetable beds aren't active right now. I'm very careful, I'm very picky about this, where it may seem at the moment that there's no veg here, it's finished. People may be walking around as if it's all just land. I'm like, no, let's follow the paths, because we always working every day to prevent, to maintain that fluffy soil, and you can come like a year later, if you haven't stepped on it and you've really looked after it, you see how fluffy it is. So good practice. You need really good practice, really good discipline on where you step in and where you place in, your machineries and things like that. That will go a long way in you maintaining, because after you've plowed it once, after you've prepared your soil, you can really maintain that. That can be like long lasting. So that one-time damage, that initial one-time damage can be very long lasting if you're disciplined and you're careful enough.
Yeah, it's always an idea of not trying to mess up your own work, right? Don't try to destroy the work you do. I like to say that each step that you take on a bed that you prepared, you can discount 2 strikes of the hoe that you just did half an hour ago, because you just lost that. So it's just lost work. We need to work efficiently. All right, next question. I think this was Adam who asked as well. What do you think is better, freshly ground brown and green plant material spread on top of soil, or aged composted brown and green plant material spread on top of soil, which then has the ability to grow select cover crops within it right away? Look, if it's completely composted already, and by the videos that you showed us, it wasn't completely composted yet. So if it is completely composted, meaning that black soil, ready compost, it's got a different use. You're not going to use it to cover the soil. You're going to use it to incorporate into the soil. And then if it's half decomposed, it's great for covering the soil. It's a great material. And then the mix, when you put freshly ground green stuff you need to be careful because you cannot put a thick layer. Okay, so if you're talking about freshly ground brown and green, if they're mixed together, if there's too much of green, meaning too high a nitrogen content, if you make too much of a thick layer, it's going to heat up, and you don't want that. So usually when you're using fresh stuff, you need to make a thin layer and then cover it with nice brown material, or cover it with this aged compost, half composted material. So I wouldn't say it's a matter of better or worse. I would use both, okay, if you have access to, because you can use the semi-composted material as the final covering, and then a thin layer of fresh material underneath that. So I think that would be ideal, because then that fresh material will decompose and it will release nutrients in the soil. It will feed life in the soil very nicely. So I think that's the way to go.
Saying that, Felipe, and I appreciate Adam's situation where he's got abundance of this material, and he's talking about foot high kind of ground coverage, some amazing amounts of material. So that's why it's important to mention not to be so thick with green veg covering. But saying that, it's very unlikely if you're covering a vegetable bed, or if you're covering a tree bed, it's very unlikely that you're going to actually put thick enough material that's actually going to have that heated up information, that negative impact. Because there is like a limit of material you can put. You want to have it well covered, but there is a limit of material you can put if you're going to be planting, say, a vegetable seedling there, or if you want roots to sprout from that, if you want trees, tree seedlings to come up from that as well. And so you would consider to cover your soil with freshly green shredded material, considering that very unlikely that you'd be putting in foot highs and 20 centimeters of covering the soil with, if you see what I'm saying. Quite often we're talking about 4 fingers high, and if you're talking about 4 fingers, then it's tolerable. And for 4 fingers material to cover the soil, we consider that actually as as quite a nice amount. So I wouldn't worry up to 4 fingers, up to that nice amount, which is viable for most people. What do you say?
Yeah, that's it. As long as it's not too thick, and then it's well to remember, if you're using very fresh, waste. There is a difference, all right, between waste and like food scraps and shredded trees, okay, because of the water content. If it's only shredded material, you can use a lot more. If you're using food waste, then it needs to be really a thin layer. And then if you're putting I usually do, I end up putting 10, 20 centimeters of food waste, but then I cover it with another double the amount of dry material. So there is that difference. If you're
Sure.
and also there's a difference between
It's
the
very
density,
important to
because
note that.
I'm putting in the soil unprocessed food waste, so it's like straight from my rubbish bin to the soil. So there's a lot of air inside. If you're putting that through a shredder, then it's going to be very homogeneous, and it's really going to create this thick, compacted layer of organic matter. So then you need to go a bit thinner. But the important thing is, if using wastes, the important thing is always have a very nice, high, dry leaves, dry straw, whatever, dry material on top of that. If you're using shredded green leaves, it really doesn't matter much. You can go really high. It won't. It will only heat up if you've got like a huge pile of it. That's up to like 2 foot or something like that.
That's right.
So that's the idea. So was that clear, Adam? I don't think it's a matter of better or worse. its different uses. It's good to remember that when it's half decomposed, you've lost part of the process. And I think you understood that well, because you yourself gave an answer in the Facebook group saying that, the party happens as it decomposes. But that's not to say that if you have access to composted material like you do, that's not a great material to bring into your farm. Okay. Next questions. What happens if you don't harvest your root crops, specifically sweet potatoes, but the question could apply to any other ground cover with a potential harvest? Of course, it depends if it is a perennial or if it's an annual plant. If it's an annual plant, it's going to die, and that's the end of it. If it is a perennial, like sweet potatoes, they will keep on resprouting all the time. They will keep on resprouting all the time and continue as a ground cover. Those roots will, the ones that were produced this year, they will eventually decompose and they will die. There is a process of dying off, and it will be continually producing new roots. And there's always going to be sweet potatoes in the ground. They will grow smaller by the year because there will be more producing all the time. But that's pretty much what happens. They're just going to stay there for life.
It is one way of feeding the soil. If you choose to leave your roots behind, and it is one way of feeding, the flora of your soil.
Exactly. It is important. One thing which is important to know is that when a plant reaches a decaying, a senescent moment of its life, it will stall the growth of other plants. Okay, this is what we talk about when we say that plants are exchanging information, okay, under the soil. So a plant that's in flowering stage and it will, prepare itself to die, will reduce growth of all the neighboring plants. So this is something that you don't want. But then, of course, it depends on the amount of influence the plant has. Depends on how dominant it is a plant. Because, sweet potato, it is a ground cover. It won't have such a big reach. Especially since you're thinking of working with bamboos and stuff that's going to be, the species will be a lot more dominant than sweet potato, which will just be a ground cover. So you can easily allow sweet potato to just, go around and die off. But for example, when you're doing vegetable production, if you do not take out the plants that are due to be harvested, not only you will lose them, they will have a heavy negative impact on the neighboring plant, because they all have kind of the same size. They're like touching each other. So if they have a strong influence on the neighboring plants, then you don't want to have a senescent dying plant in your field ever. This is important to understand. Okay, and then you can think of the influence a plant has. Just think of it as how tall it is. Okay, it will have that same radius of influence around. So, a plant that's like rockets, if they're 20, 25 centimeters high, they will have a 25 centimeters radius of influence on surrounding plants. This is a good rule of thumb. Next one. Now we had this big text from Chris. Is Chris around? Chris, if you're around, give us a shout out. Here's what he said. Any tips for small area successional agroforestry to help grow vegetables in my backyard in subtropical Australia? I am trying to provide some shade in summer, protection from occasional winds, and let in light during winter by heavier pruning. Cool. Good thing that you're here, Chris.
Does he have irrigation?
Yeah. Do you have irrigation? Let us know. I have two small gardens, one around 2 by 5 meters and the other 3 by 5 meters. I have planted 3 rows of mainly pigeon peas, arrowroot, cassava, and lemongrass. These are spaced about around 2.5 meters apart. Nice, Adam.
Yeah.
These are spaced 2.5 meters apart with single veg beds around 1.5 meters wide between them. I chose that separation because that is the approximate height of the rows. Does that sound right? What do you mean the height of the rows? The height of the plants in the row? I can't think that the beds are 1 meter high, right? So far my crops have been poor. Cassava was okay. Cassava is always okay as long as you don't have leaf cutter ants. But it has only been a year since I started, and we are well into the second year of record low rainfall, so the soil is very dry. Plants are growing slowly, so there's not a lot to prune for mulch. I have been adding mulch to keep the soil covered. When it rains normally, plant growth is usually very good, so I suspect some of my problems is drought. I hand water with a hose. Any tips on how to do that effectively? Thanks for any suggestions. Okay, so
Yeah. Could I say a few things on that?
Before you start, Chris, let us know what you mean by the height of the trees in the rows. All right, go on, Gennaro. Sorry.
Chris, you know, vegetables, they're very demanding with nutrition for starters, you know. They need a lot of love and care. So vegetables, you need to give that pump. You need to be reasonably aggressive with manuring. Every time you got to rotate that vegetable, you know, if you want to get paid back, you need to put in, you know, it's different from trees that can, you know, go further, their roots travel, and so you really need to you know, be generous with your manure. Okay, so that's basic, right? And you know, with the hosing, with you watering the hose, that there's a lot of margin for error there as well. You know, sometimes you miss out an area, or you don't miss out an area, or sometimes the timing that you irrigating. It's a very simple system you can put in place for automated irrigation. You know, I've spoken about this a few times. Those fish timers, you know those timers for fish tanks, you know, in-house fish tanks. You get those in fish shops where, you know, timers to switch on the lights and on and off the lights from your fish tank, so you can actually, you know, set something up with these timers where it will open and close, you know, these taps, you know, it opens and closes with the timer, and for very small amount, or you can switch on or off a pump as well. You can have attached to a pump, which switch on and off at certain times. And, you know, by doing this, you can really optimize the times of the irrigation, you know, late in the evenings, early in the mornings, so you can make the most of your water. You know, if you don't want to be irrigating and seeing that evaporate immediately. Late in the evening is really nice, so it spends that whole night, you know, drinking and growing, right? And, you know, for vegetable systems, vegetables love, you know, we talk about vegetables love eucalyptus, and vegetable loves forestry and bananas, but it loves them once you're pruning them. You know, you really need to keep that mass on the ground. You know, you need to be very aggressive with the pruning. So as much as vegetable loves, you know, integration with the forest, but that demands a very well pruned forest, a very radically pruned forest. You really see negative results if you let your forest grow and you're still trying to produce, you know, annual crops, or those kind of vegetable crops. You know, obviously there's crops that tolerate more shade, and they're the ones that, you know, you can, in the second or third year, you can, you know, work more closely to. But really be careful. They need direct sunlight. Most veg, really, for veg production, you really need a lot of sunlight coming in. It's not a case like, grasses that, love the shade. And, we're being general with general vegetable crops. Obviously, know, each individual crop might have a specific demand for light. But generally for veg, you need a lot of light. Sure, you need to block off the wind, but be careful that those wind blockers are not blocking off light as well. So you need light, you need the water, and you need the manure. It seems basic, but you need to give it that quality love and care. And then you can't let any of the soil to be exposed and all of that. So it's a lot of love and care. Once you give, if you're generous with all of that, you know, okay, wet summer usually, dry winters, but way below average for the last 2 years. Okay, so the cold as well. So it's obviously the crops you got to, seasonal crops.
There's no frost though. He doesn't
What
get
would you
frost.
say, Felipe?
Plant bananas, man. Lots of bananas. I wouldn't try to do. You're probably in the city, so you can get extra mulch material easily. And I would space those tree rows apart to 5 meters instead of 2.5, because 2.5 it shades out too quickly, especially if you're growing bananas. And the reason why I'm telling you grow bananas is that they are the best mulch for vegetables. There's no question about that. And you should grow them to take them down. Okay, you're not going to be harvesting bananas. You're going to be pruning. You're going to be taking them down every 4 or 5 months or so. So you can plant them every meter. On your row. So for example, in the garden, 2 by 5. So I would have, I would put the row. I would make 2 meters long rows, right? 2 meter long beds, and then 5 meters wide. So you could have like one row of tree on each side with lots of bananas. I'd plant banana every meter. And then you can have your pigeon pea, eucalyptus, and any other fast-growing trees that you have around. Maybe some senna species, anything that you can prune, 3 times a year. And then you're going to be feeding those banana trunks to the soil, to the beds. It won't be enough to cover all the beds, because in that spacing you can probably fit 2 beds in between. I mean 3 beds in between, 3 80 centimeters bed. And then you're just going to be bringing down the bananas there. What Gennaro said about automating irrigation is brilliant. It's highly recommendable to do it, even if it's not automated, but at least a proper irrigation system that you just open up the register and the water flows, right? If you can automate it, even better, because then it's you don't have to worry about it. But watering with a hoe, it takes a lot of time. You're never too sure, how much water. If it was homogeneously, how do you say that? Homogeneously watered. And so I would go for that. Lots of bananas. Bananas will hold a lot of moisture. They will release lots of nutrients. They will be constantly bringing nutrients that vegetables do not reach. They're gonna, because their roots expand further down, they're gonna be bringing that back to the surface of the soil as you put the trunks on the soil. So I think those are the ideas. Definitely put pigeon pea and cassava on the vegetable beds. Okay, you put them on the vegetable beds, and then you prune them down. You prune them back, prune them low once you're restarting, because they will grow nicely in the beginning with your vegetables. But once you do your first harvest, then the pigeon peas are going to be big, the cassava are going to be big, but then you can just prune them down. Okay.
You have to be aggressive with the pruning. From what you mentioned in here, you're wondering if it was about too much shade. So yes, so the shade is catastrophic, say, for vegetable production.
Yeah.
And you have to be aggressive. Plant your bananas every meter, but you can't be shy with the pruning. With the trees, like Felipe mentioned, 3 times a year, maybe even more. Obviously, there'll be times a year, you know, that things will stall a bit in winter, but be very aggressive with the pruning. Obviously, you need to, you know, leave the resprout so you can, you know, have something to prune back. And you know, the bananas, it's so amazing. I was itching myself because, you know, today I recorded the video and I was really itching myself if I was going to talk about this other topic. You know, the bananas. We're pruning down bananas. We're pruning them down for the vegetable. We're pruning them down for the vegetable. And then after twice we're pruning them and we let them go, they still produce the fruit before the ones that we didn't prune at all. We pruned these bananas down twice for the vegetable, and once I let them go, they become more vigorous, more healthy, and they produce before another banana that I never pruned and I just planted it on the same day. It's incredible. So the banana loves the pruning. You know, it doesn't like you taking pups out in its first year, in its first cycle. You know, that you don't want to be hurting him like that. But you know, for organic material, be very aggressive. Don't let it shade out. Every time you got to reset the system, which means, you know, reset your vegetable beds, reset the whole system, and you get a whole new information. If you're going for vegetables, be radical with your pruning.
That's it, man. Let me show a couple of pictures here. Do I have some pictures? Yeah, I have some pictures. Display capture and one. Nope. Good. Okay, you guys can see the pictures.
Yeah, Gareth has been asking a few things here. He had an earlier on question about.
Yeah, I wrote them down.
You know,
down. Let's just show these pictures and we'll get to those.
Yeah.
So okay, check it out. This is
that.
what you want, right? Your vegetable beds to look like. So you know, you can see the banana trunk split. Then let me see another picture here. Same thing. Okay, the banana trunks, you can see garlic growing. You've got garlic, rockets, lettuce. This is broccoli. So, you know, banana trunks, a thin strip of bed showing up and then covered with shredded grass. And you can grow things there. Cassava, you can see the cassavas are in the bed. Here I'm resetting the system. You can see that the bananas were all taken down, of course. Oops. Only the smaller ones were left. And the cassavas were heavily pruned. You can do the same with pigeon pea. I just take away all of their leaves. They're so vigorous that in 15 to 20 days I have to prune the cassavas again. Otherwise, they will shade out the vegetables. One thing which is important to understand is that this cassava, I'm probably not going to harvest it because as the pruning will be so fast, it won't have time to rest. So, you know, if I just pruned it, and then I'll prune it again in 20 or 30 days, that will weaken the plant because it would need at least 3 months to you know, replenish its reserves. So they will eventually die off and get weak, but that's not a problem because then I can just replant them. The idea here is not to harvest the cassava. It's just to have a perennial crop on the beds, you know, maintaining that soil structure, feeding bacteria, feeding microorganisms in the soil. So, you know, this is what I would do. These rows are 5 meters apart. So it's you know, I can have the row of trees and 3 beds in between, 20 centimeters. I would recommend doing 20 centimeters of path only. That's a very small path, but for a small garden, if it's only you and your family who work on it, you can definitely get away with 20 centimeters path. Just be very careful not to step on the beds. You know, that's the way I did in my place.
You see the bananas that one thing is interesting to mention. You can see the bananas on the right there. they're tilted towards the right. Yeah, because you see banana bunches, they have the tendency to walk around. If you're pruning bananas, you can really direct where the next pup's gonna become. So be careful not to let the bananas grow into your corridor, into your vegetable beds. You can really kind of direct when you're selecting the pups that you're gonna leave behind. You see, so you can clearly see Felipe selected banana pups that were leaning towards the right. They were leaning away from the vegetable bed. So that's obviously there's quality pups to select for you to leave. You know, there are shapes of prosperous pups, but you can also want to select them by choosing the direction that they're growing. So taking the ones out which are closer to the veg and leaving the ones that are leaning away. Sometimes that's something to consider as well.
Often you will have vegetable beds. In your case, you won't, but often you'll have vegetable beds on the other side of the row of trees. In that case, you just need to maintain them on the very center. I did a video about choosing banana plants, managing bananas. I recommend you guys watch it. It's pretty thorough, which pups to select and all that. So it's a pretty good thing. Irrigation tape in the corridor. Yes, that irrigation tape is that one that it throws water sideways. So, it goes up and sideways. So, we put them in the corridors. And that's not drip irrigation. That's a sort of aspersion. Is that how you say it? Aspersion in English? So Gareth asked a couple of questions. So first question, what would be a daily routine for veg production? Can one person manage on his own? It always depends on the size of your plot, of course. You want to
Gareth,
take that?
If you want to make it, a commercial production, it's very unlikely that one person can handle the whole operation. Sometimes you can outsource specific tasks. So for example, I was working here, me plus one, and we're preparing vegetable beds like crazy. But to go ahead and plant the seedlings, that's another task. And we're busy with a lot of other stuff. So sometimes for each seedling tray of say 200 seedlings, I'll pay the neighbor's daughter 15 reais per tray. So I would outsource that as an example. Maybe I don't need extra staff for that, but I'll kind of that fits into my expenses. So I'd have these young people come in, they need a little bit of money. It's nice for the community. Here in Brazil we have a lot of community. They appreciate the extra work, and then you can offer them say 15. Well, that would be equivalent to maybe $5 to go ahead and plant these vegetable seedlings. There's a lot of work, a lot of back work. You have to be like kneeling down to plant these seedlings. Everyone's capable, but it's one of those things. Ladies do it best. It's one of those things that need care, and there's them kind of guys which are really strong and brutal and important in the whole equation. But then again, for planting little seedlings, maybe that's not your best labor. So it's an example. Maybe you can outsource specific tasks. So these people, they'll come in, I'll give them 4 trays, I pay them so much per tray, thank you very much. So that really helped me out without having to hire extra staff. But the day-to-day operation, you're preparing beds, right? You're bringing in manure, okay? Things like covering the soil, and then there's specific harvest days. Usually, every other day, you won't be harvesting every day. Usually, we're going to be in a situation where we're going to be forced to harvest every day with the physical shop and every day sending veg. But often you have a market, or the people that buy your veg, say on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, something like that. So you've got your specific days for harvesting, and that really takes up all morning or all afternoon. It's a lot of work for the one man job. If you're looking to go commercial, because often you're having to go and sell that, you're having to deliver. Think about that. You have to prepare everything and then you're out to deliver. but you know, things doesn't stop, you know, with all the irrigation and all the, so for let's say for commercial purposes, a one-man operation is very, very tight. You can talk about a family operation, then that starts becoming more viable. You know, you've got people chipping in around the family, then that becomes possible. But it really is a case of trying to get the community people nearby. Maybe they don't need transport to come, you know, they live nearby, you know, they just walk across the street, and they, you know, they help you out with specific tasks. That's one way of doing it as well.
Yeah, cool. That's pretty much it. Um, it's thinking about a like a vegetable system that will be constantly be producing vegetables. We're going to be pruning the trees, taking them down. A person who is 100% dedicated to that, meaning, you know, it's a full-time job, you know, either yourself or someone hired. If it is a good worker, you know, like doing 8 hours a day, you know, like really giving itself out there, you can probably, like, one person can, talking about field work, okay, field work and harvest, not delivering, only field work and harvest. You can probably get, one person can probably do something like 4,000 square meters if and that's when the system is already ongoing, okay, when everything was already planted once. Remember that establishing the system always takes more time because you have to plant the trees, you have to prepare the beds. So once you've planted the whole 4,000 square meters, let's say, for planting it for the start, you're going to need extra help. Once you've got everything prepared and you've taken care of your beds, so you won't have to redo a whole preparation with the tractor that you did in the beginning, one good person will be able to take care of between 3,000 and 4,000 square meters. Okay, if that will be subdivided in plots, in smaller plots, and you will be doing like one small plot every week or every couple of weeks, or however that goes. So that's a rotational vegetable production where, you know, every week you're planting a small plot inside these 4,000 square meters. Okay, but like I said, that's not counting selling, sending it to the market, fixing whatever other problems happen in the property. Okay, that's one person fully engaged in vegetable production and nothing else. Okay, nothing else. So that's kind of so you can have, you know, numbers in your head.
Yeah, one stat that I can share with you, you know, I had these really hardworking guys, and you know, I think, you know, they do a good job. You know, one of my guys deliver one prepared bed per day, a 35-meter long. This is 35, 36-meter bed I'm talking about, and he needs to, you know, hand hoe it down. He needs to spread the manure, mix it up, shape the bed, and cover the whole bed nicely. So this is, you know, and they'll sweat to hand this, but they hand me a nice quality bed every day. One guy hand me a whole bed. So that's what I'm saying. I had this one guy preparing one bed a day, and then I paid these girls a little bit to come in and plant the seedlings, you know. And I got these guys, these stronger guys, preparing beds. It's heavy work, you know. And these guys, maybe they haven't got the right, you know, position. They're not delicate enough in the corridors. You know, you need someone lighter, you know, because it's a lot of back work to plant seedlings and vegetable. There's a lot of seedling planting involved. That is a fact. How many seedlings can one person plant? Because, you know, their back is limited, so you need to really be resistant to this. And if you're working with veg production, you might want to be planting 2, 3, 4 trays a day. You know, if you've got one bed a day, you can fit 4 trays depending on the crop. You know, so there's a lot of seedlings to be planted. Say you can fit 1,000 seedlings. It depends a lot on what kind of crops you. But if you're planting dense onions, for example, there's a lot of seedlings involved. You know, you really need, you know, healthy back for that.
Yeah, that's true. But we're talking New Zealand, man. There will be no hoeing down a bed.
Community.
They're gonna have a
They
small
got micro
tractor.
tractor.
No, I don't think
Ah, it's first world is
I don't
different.
think hoes exist there anymore. um,
But that's it, you know, shaping the bed and
yeah.
covering that, you know, everything very neat, you know.
Um,
Well, we've said
yeah,
a
yeah,
few
and
things there.
remember that the initial soil preparation is a lot more hard work. Even if you're doing with a tractor or not, it's a lot more hard work than afterwards. If you take good care of your soil, you can actually do direct seeding afterwards, right? So you do no till afterwards. You don't have to retill the bed, but it needs to be always fully covered. So then afterwards you can just mess with the very superficial uh, layer of the soil just to incorporate manure, because the rest will be already nicely structured. You can grow stuff like that. Can you have a wider tree row with extra banana and mulch production? You mean like double row of banana plants? Is that what you mean? I imagine that's it, right? I don't.
I think it's saying, you know, wider with extra bananas to account for it being wider, right? So instead of having every 2 meters banana, have every 1 meter, but then you can have it wider so you can produce more matter
Yeah,
to cover
explain that.
the
Is it
middle
a
corridors.
wider row or a larger distance between rows? Let's wait for his answer.
Oh yeah. Nice
Yes,
one,
what?
Gareth. Thanks for being
Yes,
around as
wider row,
always.
or yes, because there's a delay, or yes, larger distance between rows. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, there's a little delay. We have to wait on
Double or
that.
more. Yeah, but
I understood that it was a wider tree rows, you know, wider spacing between the trees.
okay, so it's wider. The row is wider. It's like doing a double tree or something like that, so that you can fit more trees on the same row.
That's really
Um,
tricky. It's really tricky
yeah,
because,
I don't
you
like that.
know,
I prefer to doing them closer together
you need to
and pruning more often.
put in a little corridor, you know, because if you're jumping over, you're bound to step on something that, you know, was supposed to be nice and fluffy. So when you know, we try to keep our beds 90 centimeters, meter max, because otherwise you end up stepping on that. And then, you know, you're always going to be stepping. And where are you stepping? So today you step here, tomorrow you step there. You know, if you kind of like, you need to jump across quite
Yeah, and
often.
I don't think this is
We're talking about wide.
such a huge problem, because if it is going to be a tree row, eventually it would be a problem in the beginning, but eventually it will be only trees, so you're allowed to walk around a bit, but it's still a problem. The bigger problem for me is the loss of area, because if you do a 3 meters wide row, you're only going to be able to fit two rows of trees there, and you're losing 3 meters of your plot. You're not going to be able to grow anything inside that row of trees, right? So in 3 meters, you can have at least two beds. So you're losing lots of area. It's just better to make the trees closer together and prune them more often. You can make, if you're doing like really heavy pruning, you can do them 4 meters apart, and that will already be good enough. So yeah, so there's two reasons for
Yeah,
not
I'm
doing it.
really
You're
itchy.
gonna end up stepping on it, and you're gonna lose precious space. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Um,
I'm really itchy. I'm really itchy with you know, stepping on. You know, you need the corridors. You need to be able to walk around, you know, and respect the
yeah, of
corridors.
course.
And with wide rows, you know, you have a problem there.
Tiny jungle, tiny jungle. I believe you are our patron, aren't you? But I don't know your name there. What's your name, man? Because I've seen you you making comments in our videos before we release them out to the world. Thanks, Gareth. Glad to have you here. Yeah, do watch the rest later. So Tiny Jungle Prune asked, would you use that tape on fruit tree system or drip? I prefer drip irrigation usually, but at the time I was using that tape. I still use it today because I still have the tapes. But I like drip irrigation better. It's you don't water the leaves of the plants without need. You can irrigate a larger area at once. Oh, you're Greg. Cool. Good to know. So you don't water you can water a larger area. Yeah. So yeah, you lose less water. That's all. These are all benefits from drip irrigation. So I much prefer it than those.
With
tapes.
that, with this tape as well. With this tape, that the pressure of the water can alter, and that really alters where the water. You got to really fine tune the pressure to get the water, hitting where you want to hit. And also, as the tape goes further down, if you have like a 50-meter long tape, or you buy them at 100 meters long, you don't usually have a 100-meter long vegetable bed. But if you did, at the very end there'll be a lot more. There'll be less pressure than in the beginning, so it's not such a uniform amount of water. You get different letters at the end of your bed than you do in the beginning of the bed.
That's
that alters a lot of the pressure.
That's a technical question of irrigation, right? Each irrigation method has a maximum length. So that only happens if you exceed the maximum length. So for that type of tape, if I remember correctly, it's 70 meters or something. So if you exceed that, you're gonna have problems. But if you respect, and this is something from the supplier, right? They say, look, you cannot do more than this, and this goes for every method of irrigation. Every method will have a maximum length that you can use, and this is actually taken in when you do an irrigation project. This will be all taken into account, exactly to prevent that. To prevent differences in the pressure of water in the beginning of the line and the end of the line. So that's just a technical aspect that's good for people to know. So you will have that in every irrigation method. You need to be careful with that.
With the drip irrigation, you have a much larger threshold, and it does tend to be way more uniform.
So what else? I think we had one more question here. How do you pay for extra labor, like per hour or per day? Here in Brazil, we usually do per day, right? I don't know over there, Gennaro. You usually do per day, right? People don't usually work per hour here.
Yeah, per day. But I try to, as much as possible, do a package, because if you do a package, you can get a better deal. So sometimes you're implementing a plot. I try to work something out, like cost for the week. You try to break it down. I'll pay you for the week. I'll pay you for 5 days. And usually you can get a better deal on that. If you extra labor, or you can be punctual. I'll pay you for so much work. You can. It really depends on the kind of labor that's available. But per day, certainly not per hour around here. Certainly not per hour. So it's per day. I try negotiate a weekly price.
Yeah.
Or even, like I said, depending on the community, for a specific role, there's a specific amount of money available for that specific role.
Yeah, there's lots of ways that people do it. Either per day, per week, per month, depending. It could also be per work. Lots of people charge per work. So, for example, for professional fence making people, they usually charge per meter of fence established. Then for harvest, lots of people will, you will pay per bag of harvest, per bushel per kilos, per box, per row of maize harvested. There's all sorts of stuff. Um, Paying per
You know,
work
when you
is
pay,
very nice because you know exactly how much you're going to pay for an amount of work done. So, for example, for harvest, I'm gonna pay you, I'm gonna pay you certain dollars per bag of maize harvested. So I know exactly how much the harvest for that bag of maize is gonna cost. And for the person, it's good as well because he can, make an extra effort to make more money per hour. He won't be lazing about. He can just know, I want to be home for lunch, so I'm just going to start early and just work really fast to make the amount of money that I want to make today. So that's a pretty good way to do it.
yeah, obviously you need to be demanding with the quality of the work, but once you're paying for productivity, that's very efficient. Like Felipe said, you can account for that amount of money for this operation, how much you can afford, and this is interesting for you, so that then you can make
Yeah.
this
That
offer.
said,
We have seen these bigger farms.
for, yeah.
I've
Go
seen.
go go ahead.
I've been to visit some. I've been to visit some big vegetable production farms, the largest organic vegetable producers in Brasilia, and they've got a story there where when they started paying per production, everything went up in the roofs with productivity. When you got a team, people always seem to like pan themselves out with the worst. So we've got 5 members of staff, and I'm working fast and I'm producing a lot, and then this guy next to me, he's getting paid the same, but he's not producing that much. So then you're thinking, I can get away with this. I can actually bring myself down to his level. People leveled themselves get paid per box of beans that you harvest. People were doing five, six times the amount of harvest per day. So there's no point paying people to lay around and do the slow work. Obviously, I mean, I manage my staff really well. I pay them monthly, and they got to produce, like, because I made a video about this every day. Even if you break it down, has it frozen off? Am I freezing
No,
there?
your voice is
Every
delayed,
day
but you're
costs
it's
me so
working.
much. Yeah. So even if you pay monthly, you break it down to the day, how much you're costing me today, and I really need to see results for that much for today. Um, but if you can pay per productivity, that's great. That's great. It needs to be quality work, but the maths can be there, and then a lot of the time you see more
Yeah,
effective
for
uh,
bed preparation,
results.
since that's what you're asking, what I would recommend is actually paying per day. Because that's something that the person can do badly. So if you're paying per amount of work done, it's very easy for the person to. It might not even be in purpose, but it's just it's subconscious. You're trying to get as much work done as possible. So sometimes the work is not so well done. And for bed preparation, since it's such an important task, I would actually like pay the normal daily wage there, and I would add an extra 20% bonus if the bed is like beautifully prepared. Perfect depth all across the bed. If it's like, okay, this is 100% well done work, you get 20% extra on top of your daily wage. This would be ideal because
That's a nice
yeah,
bonus for doing
because
your
it is
job. That's a nice
it
bonus, yeah.
pays off. Having a badly prepared bed is really bad. It's the worst thing you can have. This is the most important part of the job. So you can add a
Yeah,
bonus if
so
it's well done.
that is key. That is key. You can't stand for low quality uh, you know uh, results. Now, if you pay them daily and you pay them monthly, you can still demand results. You got like tasks. You got a, how do you say, meta?
Goal.
Um, you got a goal. So even if you pay them daily or monthly, I need to see a bed per day. It needs to be quality. If it's not quality, you've got to redo this. This is it. You just can't accept it. You get them to redo it. You just got to have to redo that. You got to stay to whatever. And oh, that's fine. You can't do it. That's fine. I won't call you tomorrow. That's okay. Thank you very much. It was a good. People need to know that they need to produce quality, and if you're not paying them poor productivity, you need to give them goals, because people need to understand how much it costs you. Now, this is another interesting thing. One person can prepare one quality bed. Let's say two people can maybe prepare 2.5 quality beds. Sometimes two people, when they're working, effectively for certain tasks, two people can be more effective, and you can get extra 15-20% in the end for having them working together. And sometimes two people, they're going to be talking and producing less in certain tasks. I don't want two people, gluing, pipes together. That's a one-person task. But sometimes you can produce more in teamwork. Okay, so this is curious. One person prepares one bed, two people prepare 2.5 beds.
Yeah, that's a good one. Guys, we're running out of questions. Apparently, you can still send more questions while we make our announcement that we said we would make, and we completely forgot about it. So, couple of things,
Hit the like button if you
Yeah,
haven't. Hit,
yeah.
hit
If
the
you
like button
haven't do
now
it,
if you haven't, because we've got 14 people watching. Most of you, if you like, or the dislike button if that's the case. But do support us, with simple
yeah,
acts like that.
the like button is essential. So most of you know we've got our Patreon community, right? This is a way we found for you to support our work, so that we can continue to bring you great materials, so that we can gather funds for buying new equipment, so that we can gather funds to produce a higher quality course. This is one of the goals for next year, is to produce a new full agroforestry course of better quality, more depth in the subjects and all that. So we've got that Patreon community. It started in July. When we launched it, we offered some bonuses for people who joined early, and we're just reinforcing that invitation for you to join us, and we're offering the bonuses again for those of you who join us until this next Wednesday. Okay, so the bonuses are participation in a series of 3 webinars where we'll be discussing some important topics. We might redo the topics that we did last time. We might choose new topics. This will be decided yet, but we're going to be doing 3 webinars. And also, you're going to participate in a draw for a one-on-one coaching with us. So for every 20 people joining, for every 20 patrons that we have by Wednesday, we're going to be giving away a 1-hour personal consultation with us to help you develop your agroforestry project. So these are pretty awesome bonuses. Make sure you join quick. Tell all your friends about it. And by joining us on Patreon, you get access early to the videos. Usually 2 weeks in advance, you get access to the videos, and we're always releasing some extra material. Because whenever we record a video, after recording, we always remember, damn it, I should have said this, this, and that, and I could add this and that to the information. So usually we, write some stuff down to send to our patrons as complimentary material, which are in the post. Whenever you join, you will have instant access to all of the posts that have already been posted. So that's a good thing. So that said, we're also releasing a new tier. Okay, it was open today. We've already had some people joining. This tier is specifically for people who need personal consultation, who are developing agroforestry projects with commercial purposes, because this tier is for having personal consultation with us, and it's capped at 5 people. Okay, we're only making a group of 5 people. And so the idea is to have this group of people who will be monthly with us. Each person is going to have a monthly call with us to develop on the project, and we'll be hosting monthly group calls with all the 5 so that we can all work together and develop together all of the people's projects. They will also have access to the Discord private group where we'll be discussing the projects, clarifying doubts every month. People in the 790 tier, right? The other tier costs $790 per month. That's the contribution. They also have access to Discord, because we have that community so that all of our patrons can be communicating, chatting with us. All of them have access to Discord. But then this new tier, they're going to have access to a private channel in Discord. Actually, that's it. So that we have those 5 people. We really want these people to create a bond together so that they can be mutually supporting each other and, be sharing successes, sharing flaws, sharing mistakes that they made. We really think this is going to enhance their growth as agroforestry. That this higher tier, this tier for this 5 people, this one will be $220 a month. Okay, but you will have, like we said, like an hour every month with us. Plus, we'll be hosting these monthly group calls, which can last for 3-4 hours. So you will be having, and plus you're having the access to the Discord group. So this is major value. You're going to end up having access to us for 5 hours each month, 4 or 5 hours each month. So this is, like we said, specifically for people who are actually developing agroforestry projects, who want to go further, who want to do it commercially, right? This is ideal for people who are actually doing this commercially. Want to add anything, Gennaro?
Yeah, so we've got this added, benefit bonus incentive for people who do join until Wednesday, right? Even on the 790 tier. And if you are a patron already, just to let you know, you take part also in this draw. Felipe and I have been discussing this. Is it something that an incentive only for people which are recently joining? But be happy to know that once you've joined, you keep on having bonuses and incentives, and we keep on looking after you once you're there already. So there will be a draw for a one-on-one for people which join until Wednesday. But that draw will also extend for the people which are currently in Patreon. So if you're in Patreon, we're still looking after you. We still want to make sure that you're there, you're happy, you stay with us. So we're still happy to more bonuses. So there's a lot of activity going on in the Patreon. The Patreon tribe. We are always looking for ways of bigging you up, and giving back the way you've given to us. So just to make a point here, so we're giving a one-on-one draw for 1 hour of our session for every 20 patrons. So we've got the people which are there, but if there's people joining up, it's for every 20 patrons. So you'll always have a good chance, in that draw, whether if you're already a patron or if you're joining by Wednesday with us.
Yeah, that's it, guys. And also, of course, everybody who joins, we just want to give you a big shout out because it really helps us continue doing this work, and it will help us keep on bringing more content, even higher quality content. That's what we want. We hope that next year we bring you the Agroforestry Academy course 2.0 improved. That's going to be cool. We're pretty excited about that. And all right, guys, send us some more questions. Greg asked when the last webinars will be available. I hope to upload them this week. We're actually sorry that it took us so long. It should have been done beforehand, but we will be doing it shortly. So any more questions, guys? We'll be happy to answer. If not, we're going to wrap it up for the day, and we'll be with you soon again. let's
All right. Thanks very much,
let, let's
guys.
let's give them 20 seconds of delay, because there's always a delay to see if there's going to be any more questions. Okay, I think we can wrap it up. All right, guys, thank you for watching.
All right,
It's always a
yo.
pleasure to be with you. We hope to be doing this more often, and that's it. I'll catch you all next Saturday,
From the
or
Agroforestry
hopefully
Academy
before
crew.
that, by Wednesday, when you join us on Patreon, if you're not already there. Cheers, oh.
See you guys soon. And be in touch. Today's Saturday. We've launched new videos, both public in the YouTube, and there's new videos there for the Patreon crew as well. We're how many? We're 2 or 3 weeks in advance for the Patreon crew. So there's new video there that's going to be available soon in the YouTube
Exactly.
channel. And today there's a fresh one in the YouTube channel from a couple of weeks ago.
Bye bye,
Nice one.
guys.
So check
Peace.
those out as well. Till next time.
Still on.